Well, hi, Jyeshitha. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's 10 a.m. in London right now, so I have a busy day planned after that because it's 4th of July in the US. So
Right.
all my friends are planning on doing a cute potluck together. So we're making American snacks and drinks, basically.
3 years back, you left Mumbai to study psychology at Boston University. And if you
Correct.
think back to that 18-year-old version of yourself, what were you expecting your college journey to look like?
So I was thinking, oh, I'll be partying every day or just continuously studying every day or something like that. But then when I actually went to the US, I realized that everyone actually does care about their academics and it's not exactly what the movies portray. But simultaneously, they're able to balance their lifestyle well. And I think seeing that was really inspiring. I think it truly matters who you surround yourself with because all my friends, they managed to balance their lives. And I think that helped me a lot because I think I was one of the students where I did not take academic that seriously. But ever since I've gone to Boston University, that it's such a rigorous university that it forces you to actually think about what you want to do in life. And I think that really helped me because now I think I'm a changed person.
Fantastic. In fact, question was going to be, how different has this journey been compared to what you had imagined? And I think you touched upon it in the sense that it was more rigorous. It's exactly not like what in the movies, but there are other pieces of it which you may want to highlight, which you thought might be the case in Boston and at Boston University, but which is completely different.
To be honest, I did not get any cultural shock when I was in the US because I feel like the lifestyle I've lived in Bombay is quite similar to what I've experienced in the US. And I will say, I feel people in Boston University are really friendly, as they would generally want to help you out with whatever you're going through. Like all my peers and classmates, no matter if they have a question or if I have a question, we'll help each other during study sessions or just maybe navigating your life as an international student in the US. So at Boston University, I feel like everyone is just really open and friendly. And I would say that I was initially really scared when going to the US because it's going to be like a new environment with so many people from different ethnicities and cultures that I feel like maybe my opinions would be like different from others. But when I started interacting with people, I realized that everyone's views are quite similar to mine, as well as even navigating through life as an international student because you need to learn how to do your taxes or figure out what to say, what not to say, because you are in a new country. And I feel like having that perspective from people from different cultures was like really helpful. And I feel Boston University has been such an amazing time of my life. And I'm so glad I chose that as my university.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit and for our audiences, maybe give a slightly more detailed introduction of who Jayashita is. So maybe talk about what your journey was before you got into BU. Talk about your preparation. We spent some time together in the lead up to your admission at BU. What were you thinking? How did you go about it? What did you choose to study at BU, and how, in a nutshell, your last few years have been at BU? I think you're doing an exchange program right now at London. So maybe talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay, so my name is Jyeshitha Harikrishnan. I'm a rising senior at Boston University. I'm studying psychology and I have a minor in business. So when I was in high school, I didn't really think I was going to choose psychology as my major, only because I grown up in this Indian culture. You're like always like forced to think that, oh, you have to go into science stream because that's what everyone is doing and that's what everyone's used to. So when I was doing science 11th and 12th grade, I realized that it's just not for me because I feel like I am someone who loves engaging with people and understanding their behavior. And I realized that maybe psychology is the perfect way to go. Maybe I do want to focus on something that has to do with human behavior. And that's when I realized that I have to take psychology. And yeah, I chose that as my major. And I realized that just studying psychology is not the way to go because I'm not looking to go into clinical psychology. I do want to go into more consumer behavior because I've always interested in the intersection between psychology and business. So that's why I took my business minor so that I can get to study accounting and then marketing classes and try to see if there's any similarities between those two subjects. So yeah, I think my process in 12th grade was not bad. Yeah, I remember I was doing an internship at McDonald's India, and I was also a Bharatnatyam dancer, which I had performed for over a decade. So all those things just helped me create my applications for Boston University. And Boston University itself has provided me so many opportunities as I am doing a study abroad program. It's still the Boston University campus in London. And I did want to go to London because, yes, my sister was coming here to study in Cambridge. But apart from that, London was always a place that I did want to study abroad. I just didn't have a time during the semester as it was so busy and I had like internships and club activities that I had to do. So I never had the time. So now during the summer, I realized it's the perfect time to go because now I'm going to be a senior. And when am I going to have the stories to tell? Oh, yeah, I went to study abroad in London. And I think going to London has been such an amazing time for me because I get to learn about the British perspective of psychology. They take us to a lot of field trips over here. So we got to go to the Freud Museum or go to Bethlehem Museum, which is like the Museum of Mind, where I got to understand more about the British psychology. So I feel like BU is such an amazing university that they provide me such opportunities. Yeah.
This is fantastic. So it seems that you're thoroughly enjoying yourself.
Yes. Love this university and I'm glad I chose this.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into the major that you've chosen. Psychology as a subject is something that many Indian parents do not understand fully as a career choice. For them, often psychology straight away means a clinical psychology pathway. Did you encounter those conversations and how did you think about them?
I would say I've encountered these conversations multiple times, but not from my parents, but I would say from my extended relatives, because I think for them psychology is just diagnosing mental disorders. There's nothing else apart from that. But I also feel like that's due to the fact that there's not a lot of like research done on psychology in India itself. Because in India, if you're doing psychology, you have to do clinical because you have to become a doctor, because that was like the pathway to go to. But that was not for me personally. And I knew that as much as I respect people who are pre med, I realized that I don't think I can make a difference in people's lives when I'm doing that. And at the end of the day, I do want to create a business where it helps people in life. Psychology is such a subject where you can take that and still do whatever you want in life because there's so many pathways to go to. It's not just clinical psychology. You can go into developmental, you can go into organizational such like and industrial like psychology. It's not that's like social work or social psychology. So there's so much that I feel like people shouldn't limit themselves when they're taking psychology. And I feel like psych is such a subject that you will see it in every aspect of your lives. And I feel like even if you're having regular conversations, you wouldn't even realize that, oh, you're able to understand people that way. And I feel like psych is such a beautiful subject. And I'm glad I chose that as my major.
I hear a lot about the growing impact of AI on careers, especially entry level careers. And obviously, as a rising senior, you would be thinking about what you would end up doing once you graduate. We've talked a lot about marketing as a plausible pathway for you, but think about in the context of psychology as the major that you've committed to, business being a minor that you're also pursuing, marketing as an interest, and the impact of AI on entry level careers, especially. How do you think all of this pans out in terms of choices, especially for you and also generally for other students who have psychology as a major? So, for example,
Mm.
to add more color to this question, a lot of people who were doing CS, computer science, they said that, look, I don't want to do computer science anymore because there are no entry level jobs, right? On the other hand, people who were doing hardcore engineering, like mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, they are seeing a huge traction in the jobs that they were doing. Psychology is also one of those things. You have to replace a human by a human, right? You cannot replace a human by a machine and hope to build that kind of connection with a machine. So, again, talking about marketing, talking about psychology, and talking about plausible career options that you may or may not have, how do you think this combination will play out in times to come? And more specifically for you and generally for people who are going to come after you as well.
Some people say that, oh, it's a bubble where it's going to burst soon, where some people are like, no, you have to learn the skills of coding and figure out how AI works. So that's how you can move on with your career. And I myself, over the last summer, was working with a company that had voice modulators to detect psychological disorders. And it is quite scary to see that clinical psychology jobs being taken just by machines. Not interesting, but quite scary to hear this because so many jobs are being like replaced that way. And even in marketing, I was having a conversation with someone where they were telling me that, oh yeah, now machines are doing data analysis for us. But I feel psychology is such a subject where you do need a human to analyze you, because at the end of the day, the AI is just a machine. And it's quite scary to see that people are using ChatGPT or Claude for therapy. I feel like with AI coming into play, it's quite scary out there. But at the end of the day, it's like your skills and your effort, the way you like navigate yourself through interviews, it would probably help you.
Let's dial down a little bit more into this. And I think you mentioned two very interesting points. One is clinical psychology or counseling aspect. And you talked about connection in some form and shape, and a machine cannot forge a connection with a human being. And you need a human per se to forge a connection with. Second is marketing, which is a field that you're probably gravitating towards. And presumably, while you could learn all the AI skills and everything to become much more efficient at your job, I think taste or judgment is what a human would intrinsically have. And an AI system might struggle to get that. So, how is it that you would respond to these two points, right? A connection in the case of counseling and taste and judgment in the case of marketing jobs, and talk about future proofing your potential career options in terms of what a Jyeshitha might want to do, or what someone who's starting to study psychology at, let's say, BU in his first year would want to think about.
Okay. I feel as a freshman, when you're navigating through life, you're obviously confused and you don't realize that your senior year will come very quickly. So, when you are a freshman, I would say first enjoy your college experience because you're first coming in. You have to enjoy that, but simultaneously take up opportunities of what's provided to you. Example, like joining clubs and everything. Because I feel like when you join clubs, you get an understanding of what's going on in the real world because you have seniors working there. I joined like her campus BU, and I was able to talk to my seniors, especially with AI coming in, just asking them, oh, like how's the job market? What would you expect, like how was your experience, like would you want to go to masters? A lot of international students in that club realize that with AI coming into play, they do want to go into masters and still develop skills. So I would say take advantage of all the opportunities that's provided to you, and be sure to always reach out to your professors. I did reach out to a professor in BU because I did want some lab experience. Now I'm working with a professor in the family development lab. I myself need to figure out what I want to do, but I do know that I have a lot of connections that can lean back into those connections that I've built through my freshman year. So I feel like that's what I believe we should do in college.
I think this was an incredibly wonderful answer, Jeshita. You talked about being vulnerable and yet building confidence through that process. I think it takes
Mhm.
a lot of honesty to communicate that in its full potential and in its full wisdom to everyone else. So thank you for that. But let me zone in a little bit more on this aspect of how this overall job market is panning out. And a lot of people do face that choice between, let's say, studying in India, where you have come from, and studying in US. And when they see that India as an economy is doing much well, it's growing much faster, and Europe and US stagnating to some extent. Also, the visa policies have become much more restrictive over the last few years across the world. So, how is it that one should navigate this choice? Should one stay back in India and study? Or do you think US in general, a top university like BU, would offer more opportunities? And if so, in what form and shape would they come?
I feel like it truly depends on one's career and what they want in life. My experience in India wasn't that great when it comes to the people I've been interacting with because my interests were quite different. When I went to the US, I was able to find people who were like, okay, I'm interested in Hollywood music or pop music and all that stuff. And I was able to find a connection over there. When it comes to education, I would still prefer the US because I feel like we have open and honest conversations and you are not meant to rote learn everything. I feel like in India, that's the problem. At least when I was studying, it was all rote learning. It's never about, oh, you have to critically analyze this paper and figure out what you think it's wrong. Your opinions don't really matter in India, whereas in the US, your opinions do matter. Your voice does matter. And I feel you have open conversations. I do love the US and I'm glad I chose there to study rather than in India.
I hear what you're saying. But try to go deeper into this a little bit more. Think about a student is graduated from school, he or she has to make that choice. Now, it feels that US is more expensive. It certainly is a more flexible ecosystem. You could choose business, for example, as a minor along with psychology. It's also a more open system. You become much more confident because you're exposed to so many different ideas. India, on the other hand, seems a more structured pathway with less flexibility. But frankly, India has more jobs. It's a cheaper alternative compared to, let's say, study in the US. A grade 12 student who just passed out should decide between these two options.
I think another thing about India is that when you choose one major, you have to stick to that, correct? I chose psychology, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I will not get the opportunity to take a sociology class or maybe like an economics class. Whereas in the US, the education is built in such a way where you're able to explore different subjects and discover new interests. And a lot of my friends are able to double major and minor in something. I have a friend who's doing economics and IR with a minor in public policy, which I feel like you don't get that flexibility in India compared to what the US is providing you. A lot of the classes are also discussion based in the US. So you're able to apply what you learn in theory. So I think when you're studying maybe psychology or economics, I think US has a better place to go to because you're able to study different subjects and get a better understanding of who you are as a person. I think the people that you meet in the US broadens your understanding of the whole world. When I am in the US, I get to understand a Korean perspective. I get to understand Europeans' perspective about their lives. And I think having that is quite important in life.
I think you're speaking from your heart, which is very important. If you think a student arrives on a US campus without knowing exactly what they would want to do, is that okay? And then in such a case, how do you think they should approach the first couple of years?
I have had several friends who have come to the US undeclared. They don't know what major they are. And I think that's totally fine because the US is built in such a way, or the education system is built in such a way where you get to pick whatever classes you want to. In BU itself, I do have to take classes from different majors because they have something called general hub requirements where you have to take classes from different majors. And so, because of that, I was able to explore, I was able to take classes from philosophy, anthropology, sociology. I even took a religion and hip hop class. So that's how amazing the US is. So I think it's totally fine and normal to come as undeclared because it's quite normal to not know what you want. But I do feel like in your first and second year, after taking so many different classes, you'll able to understand what you truly like. And even if you pick a major and you realize that you don't like it, it's totally normal to switch your major because that's how the education system is built. You can drop that major and you can add on something else and study it, and you can still graduate on time. So I think that's what I like about the US. It gives you that flexibility.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. You graduated from Mumbai, your family now lives in Dubai, you are studying in Boston, you're doing an exchange semester at London. You've had a bunch of internships across multiple countries in between. How has your life become so international and how has that impacted you as a person?
It's quite exciting for me because I am someone who loves traveling. I love going to new places, trying new food, experiencing new cultures. And the fact that I got this opportunity to move around wherever I want in the world is quite exciting and recognize the privilege that I have. And while I do miss having a place where I can just sit and relax, like a stabilized place, I feel like Mumbai was that place for me where I just go back. I don't have to think about everything. I know how to navigate through life. I have my friends and everything over there. Whereas in Boston, I do have a stabilized friend group, but it's like I don't have a stabilized home. I go there, I stay on campus, but then I'm supposed to move out after your semester is over. And I think that always throws me off, like the packing process, and makes me realize, oh, I'm not permanently staying here. This is just my college life. And then I go back to Dubai. Whereas in Dubai, I feel like I'm a tourist over there because I'm only there during vacations. And even during vacations, we travel abroad somewhere else. So the concept of home is quite confusing to me, but I do like it because I'm in my 20s and this is when you get to travel and figure out your life. It's like last summer I got to work in Boston. Now this summer I'm getting to work in London. So able to navigate through both the cultural differences is quite exciting to me. And I think it's quite amazing that I get to do this. Yeah.
Has living in different cultures changed your ambitions or the kind of life you would want to lead?
Yes, 100%. When I was in India, I was always like, oh, I need to get a 9 to 5 job. I need to get a good salary and all that stuff. But then when I moved to the US, I realized that a lot of people have this entrepreneurial mindset where they just want to create their own business. Not everyone wants to get a 9 to 5 job. Because at the end of the day, I feel like having your own business can give you that freedom and leverage and not someone just screaming at you 24/7 to do something. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. I want to create a business that impacts people's life and helps them. So I think that perspective completely changed in my life after moving to the US.
I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I think the change in mindset is probably the biggest ROI in terms of the difference between the education and an Indian system and a top university in the US ecosystem. Diving onto career aspects, and you touched upon entrepreneurship to some extent. If someone wants to build an international career, a global citizen, if you may, what is it that they should focus on while they're still in college?
I feel like if you want to build an international career, the global mindset, as you say, you have to be open to different cultures. Like my best friend in BU is a Korean, and I love her to death. And I realized that there's so many things that are different in our culture, but we still manage to find commonalities. I realized that Asian parents are always strict, and that's the commonality that we always bond over. And I feel if you're open, you get to see and even experience different cultures. Like I recently got to attend a Pakistani mock shadi. If I was in India, I wouldn't be able to attend that. But me sitting in the US, I got to able to attend a mock shadi. And that was so fun. I was just immersed in that experience and realized that, oh my God, Pakistani weddings are exciting. So you have to be open. You have to put all your differences behind you and you have to embrace every culture that you experience. And I think that mindset of mine has helped me create connections from different countries.
What is a mock shadi though?
Okay, so it's like this event where it's like a mock wedding, and they will select two people from their club, and they're like getting fake married, and there'll be like dances and food being provided. And in the end, it's just a cool DJ night, a Bollywood night. So that's the mock shadi, and that was really fun. I wouldn't get to experience the Pakistani wedding that too. Oh my God, that was genuinely really fun.
Brilliant. So if you look back on the time that you were leaving India, what is it that you think someone would have told you that would have helped you immensely at BU?
I feel like I have to be more extroverted because US is not a culture where you will make friends when you're introverted. It's going to be really hard for you when you're introverted. And initially, when I was a freshman, I was like, how do I make small talk? I have no idea how to make small talk. So I was just really awkward. But I realized in my sophomore semester, no, I have to be more extroverted because I will not be able to make the connections that I've made or even realize how to talk to people from different majors. So that helped me. I feel like that understanding made me realize that, okay, I need to be more open. And I forced myself to talk to different people because as a business minor, you're put in different groups every semester because you're taking different classes and you get to interact with so many people. And I forced myself to be more open. And that false confidence turned into real confidence. And now I'm able to have small talk with everybody. You can small talk by saying, oh, how was your day? And then hone on that. Oh, your day was bad. What happened? Or your day was good. Oh, what happened? Or where'd you go? Just small questions like that can turn into such big conversations and can deepen your friendships. And that's what I've realized. You have to be an extrovert.
I can tell you that you have changed. 4 years back, I would have difficulty in initiating conversations with you when we were working together in the lead up to your application to be. I can see a new Jyeshitha every time, much more confident, much more sure about her life, and kidding you not, this is very gratifying. So I think I hear you and completely understand what you're saying. Again, talking about this transition only, parents also worry about academics, career, safety, whether the child will settle in. And I remember your dad was dropping you to the campus when you went from Mumbai to Boston. Looking back, do you think the parents worry too much, or is there something else that's going on there?
I think parents do worry too much. Boston as a city is quite safe. While I do appreciate my dad helping me with moving in because I don't think I would have done everything by myself. But I'm going to be honest, I rarely saw my dad when he was there because as a freshman, you get so many events that I ditched my dad several times just to go and attend those events. So I feel parents do worry. I get where they're coming from, but I feel they do worry too much. At the end of the day, you do have to trust your child, and your child would come to you if there is any issue that's happening. I feel like that's the relationship that you have to build with your child. And if your child is comfortable enough to come and tell you their problems, I think you don't have to worry about what's going on. It is scary when you're going to a new country, but again, US is so welcoming that you don't have to worry about such things.
Good advice. But talking about safety, compared to Bombay, where you grew up, how safe do you perceive Boston to be? 8 on a scale of 10. Where would you put Boston at?
Right? Or maybe even like a 9.7, because I think that city generally is really safe, especially during the daytime. You can just like navigate. Especially staying in London, I've realized that Boston is actually really safe because I didn't realize that, oh, like I have to worry about my bag, I have to worry about my phone. Whereas in Boston, you just go wherever you want without having to worry like your wallet's going to get stolen or something like that. Compared to Mumbai, I would say yes, Boston is safer because even as a woman, you can walk around the city at night and nothing's happened to you. There are several times when I've come back home at maybe like 1 a.m. and nothing has happened to me. On campus itself, there were times when I was walking out the library at maybe 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning and I was totally fine. And even if you're like unsafe, your university should have this helpline. Like I know Boston has like this helpline where you feel unsafe, you can just reach out to them and they would send someone to walk with you home.
Okay, we first met when we were applying to universities, right? But we've continued to stay in touch through different stages of your journey. Looking back, how valuable has it been to have someone to discuss major decisions with?
I think it was really useful, especially because at least when I was in high school, I was not someone who would have my own opinion. I'd be just listening to my parents, being like, okay, yes, I will do this. Coming back to high school, Jyeshitha, I was going to study computer science. What was I going to do in computer science? I don't know. I don't know anything when it comes to computer science. But having you there telling me that no, you have to choose something that you actually like, it made me think, okay, what is another subject that truly interests me? And I had the opportunity to take psychology as one of the subjects in high school. And I realized that, oh, this is something I'm really interested in. And after taking a couple of classes in BU, I realized that, wow, this is the subject for me because there's never been a class where I was bored. Every psych class I've been like paying attention because that subject truly matters to me. And I feel like if you weren't there telling me that no, you have to choose something else, then I feel like I would still be studying computer science right now and being someone whose voice is not being heard. And I think having that external factor has truly helped me and has truly changed my life because I don't know, I can say what I want now without having that fear that, oh my God, my parents are going to hate me. They won't, they will listen to your opinion. But I think it took me time to reach that. But now that I'm here, I know that your voice truly reached me and truly helped me.
Thank you. I think this is very helpful, Jeshita. Few final questions. If you could sit down with your 17-year-old self before leaving India, what advice would you give her?
I think if I'm going to sit down with my 17-year-old self, I would be like, first focus on your academics in high school because that truly matters. And I feel like it's not even just getting grades. I think it's getting that discipline that matters. And I wish I developed that discipline when I was 17, but I developed it when I went into my sophomore year of college. And then secondly, I would be more open and take all the opportunities in college. I feel like in my freshman fall, I was not used to how extroverted the US was. So I was quite silent. I had a small group of friends. But then over the December break, I was like, no, this is not how I want my college life to be. I need to be more open.
If you think a student in grade 11 or 12, or maybe their parents, they were watching this conversation, what is it that you would want to take them away from your journey?
I feel like if you are confused on whether you want to send your child to the US or not, at least from my experience, you should send your child to the US, especially if you are able to. Only because that country, it truly has shaped me to be a different person in life and truly changed my perspective in life and made me realize that I have to fight for me. I become more extroverted. I've become more disciplined. I know what I want to do in life. I know what I don't want to do in life. I feel like there's so many success stories, but failure is accepted over there compared to India, where you're made fun of. In the US, you're just like, oh, so what lessons have you learned? After having a conversation with my entrepreneurship professor, he was like, it's okay to fail because you learn from there and you're able to build on that idea, build on that failures. I feel like US is that stage, that platform where you're able to work on yourself, create new businesses, and even create these friendships that will last you for ages. Now I have friends from different countries. I have one in Singapore, one in South Korea, and whenever I go to those countries, I can just go and meet them. But I would say 100% you should send your child to the US.